First of all, if people would try to respect others' rules, even in wheresoever church, then maybe, just maybe perhaps, doing this could at least possibly help for everyone to be more willing to talk right and decently unto each other. Colossians chapter 4 verse 5 through 6 and 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 40. Secondly, especially because the possibility of anyone using any electrical heaters being used anywhere within any particular corporate like buildings in the USA today, then why not make sure to have every floor properly and well equipped with fire sprinklers for every floor? I mean, if the other floors also all have the fire sprinklers installed for them, then why leave out one floor from having the fire sprinklers installed? Why leave out one floor from having the fire sprinklers installed? And also, why not include smoke detectors for every floor and room or apartment as well for corporate like buildings, apartments, houses, homes, or wheresoever else? Because smoke detectors could also be handy and useful to have installed as well, because it would help for everyone, for anyone within any particular room to notice something before a fire gets out of hand or before a situation could become to be a fire, right? Just so that everyone can stay safe. Understand? I tell you, this online stuff is really getting to be something today, because there seems now to be people that are even getting confused about the Trump Tower today. People were thinking wrong, as though something that had happened back in 2018 is what had just happened in 2025. A particular repost X, on X, formerly known as Twitter, also included both the date and the year for people to notice. But however, somehow, some way, there were people that was thinking something from the year 2018 is what's now the most latest trending now for this year 2025, as though that it has just happened in this year 2025, even though the post itself even reads for you to see the date, April 7th, 2018. I'll now show you a screenshot of a post that someone had reposted, retweeted on X, formerly known Twitter, but people have failed to notice the date on the actual original post itself. So, were people being confused by the year 2025? Was there people that had seen the date April 16th, 2025 on the repost that instantly took the post to be happening now currently in April 2025, but the whosoevers have failed to pay attention unto every detail on the original post itself? Where were their reading comprehension skills at, everyone? Moving on now with continuing on with more about this. But thus now I must ponder Philippians Chapter 4 verse 8. Were people really mistaking this repost on X, formerly known Twitter, for being something happening in 2025 because they were only looking at the date of this specific repost on X, formerly known Twitter, April 16th, 2025. But if they are just only looking at the date of this repost on X, April 16th, then how was the people getting the whole year difference mixed up? Thus, I'm now sensing to must say now, are people not anymore paying attention to things very carefully today? Because if they are, then how in the world would you not even notice the year on the post itself? Wake up, people, because something clearly must be going on with people today. Thirdly, why are people now referring to Trump as a king? And why are they now protesting against someone in the USA that seems to have some issues that may be the cause of why someone was led to being deported from the USA? Quote from source released April 18th, 2025. The report details the traffic stop encounter that led law enforcement officers to suspect Abrego Garcia of involvement in human trafficking. The documents also reveal that law enforcement confirmed Abrego Garcia to be a Mara Salvatrucha MS-13 gang member. On December 1st, 2022, Abrego Garcia was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol for speeding. Upon approach to the vehicle, the encountering officer noted 8 other individuals in the vehicle. There was no luggage in the vehicle, leading the encountering officer to suspect this was a human trafficking incident. To suspect this was a human trafficking incident. Additionally, all the passengers gave the same home address as the subject's home address. During the interview, Abrego Garcia pretended to speak less English than he was capable of and attempted to put the encountering officer off track by responding to questions with questions. When asked what relationship he had with the registered owner of the vehicle, Abrego Garcia replied that the owner of the vehicle is his boss and that he worked in construction. Gilmore Abrego Garcia is a MS-13 gang member, illegal alien from El Salvador, and suspected human trafficker. The facts reveal he was pulled over with 8 individuals in a car on an admitted 3-day journey from Texas to Maryland with no luggage, said Assistant Secretary Tricia M. The facts speak for themselves as they reek of human trafficking. The media's sympathetic, the media's commiserative, pitying narrative about this criminal illegal gang member has completely fallen apart. We hear far too much about the gang members and criminals' false sob stories and not enough about their victims. Note, Maryland is a state in the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. It borders the states of Virginia to its south, West Virginia to its east, Pennsylvania to its north, Delaware to its east, and the Atlantic Ocean to its east, and the National Capital and Federal District of Washington, D.C. to the southwest. They were driving a 3-day trip, but with no luggage in the car. Going up from Texas to Maryland. Well, where do they all in the car live at? Because either way, I would think that they would have some luggage in the car, a overnight bag or something, but they said that they had nothing of luggage inside of the car while supposed to be traveling on a 3-day trip. Continuing with more now from source. The encountering officer decided not to cite the subject for driving infractions, traffic infractions, or civil violations, but gave him a warning citation, a warning ticket for driving with an expired driver's license. Abrego Garcia's driver's license was a MD, limited term temporary license. The encountering officer gathered names of other occupants in vehicle but could not read their handwriting. The officer did not pursue further information due to no citation being issued. So it seems that only the driver was giving a warning ticket, and did the boss of his supposedly construction job know that Mr. Abrego Garcia's driver's license was expired before they had left to drive on a supposedly 3-day trip? Continuing with more now from source. In 2019, the Prince George's County Police Gang Unit validated Abrego Garcia as a member of the Mara Salvatrucha MS-13 gang. So they had known about Mr. Abrego Garcia being a gang member ever since 2019. So are the medias now, as of April 2025, saying all of this, or are they leaving this out to possibly now have so many people thinking something else for from what really is going on today? And it seems that Mr. Abrego Garcia may not have been in the USA for asylum or CAT purposes, but they are now talking about deporting him on April 18th, 2025. So does this all have something to do for El Salvador to must decide? Because if so, then it does make sense for to have to deport Mr. Abrego Garcia back into El Salvador so that El Salvador can decide things better for Mr. Abrego Garcia, especially if any gang affiliated stuff was going on within El Salvador's jurisdiction involving Mr. Abrego Garcia. You think? You think? Now, quote from another source regarding this. The Trump administration received from more than one political side criticism on Sunday, meaning the Sunday around the time of April 18, 2025, for its deportation of Gilmore Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian citizen who lived in Maryland and was deported to a prison in El Salvador due to an administrative error. A Salvadorian citizen? So is Mr. Abrego Garcia still a El Salvador citizen? And Mr. Abrego Garcia was deported to a prison in El Salvador due to an administrative error? By who? El Salvador or the USA? More from source. The Trump administration has refused to bring back Abrego Garcia despite a Supreme Court order to make easier his return. The Salvadoran citizen entered the country illegally. An immigration judge said he should not be deported to El Salvador because Abrego Garcia was able to prove he was likely to suffer persecution in his home country. Isn't that for those who come into the USA under asylum? But if Mr. Abrego Garcia wasn't in the USA under asylum, then what do they mean to say now that he likely to suffer persecution in his home country if he returned to El Salvador? More from source. The White House has said it can't force the Salvadoran government to release one of its citizens, while El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, called the idea of Abrego Garcia's release preposterous, ridiculous, on Thursday, meaning around the time of April 18th, 2025. A federal court denied the Trump administration's appeal on the court's return order. Wait a minute. So did they deny it? So what were people protesting about on Sunday, April 20th, 2025? Were people wasting then their own precious time for nothing then or not? And why are people going around saying that Mr. Abrego Garcia, one, is not a member of a gang, and two, if he's not currently a member of a gang or never was a member of a gang, then why do he have a gang tattoo on his hand? I will now show you a photo of this from source. And why it seems to me, according to source, that there are people going around with having a problem with people posting specific information online, specific information that may actually be so to help clarify something for everyone. But why some seem to be got attitude because of it now is what I'm sensing from source. More from source. I think voters support the idea of making sure that we respect constitutional rights because if we deny them for one person, they could be next. Someone said, I think conservatives and libertarians, when they think about it, they'll recognize how dangerous it is to deny someone of their personal liberty without due process. They'll recognize how dangerous it is to deny someone of their personal liberty without due process. Well, it better not be any processing that still needs to be taken care of in El Salvador about for the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. I'll say that much for now, unto the whosoever that had wanted to say that like that. And tell you something else. Could the reason why that they are saying now about wanting to deport Mr. Abrego Garcia back to El Salvador being a screw up because they are mad that Mr. Abrego Garcia did not get a hearing first before they wanting to seek deporting him? And I wouldn't say that Trump is trying to get around the courts because they keep trying to get approval from the court, isn't they? They got people now saying a lot of different things about this one as well. I'm now sensing and noticing from source. And now I'm sensing from source to must say now are people now seeing that Mr. Abrego Garcia may have now become approved to be called now an USA citizen, but not looking at some other things that Mr. Abrego Garcia, as he is still a citizen in El Salvador, that has some things that he still got to deal with in El Salvador? Is this what people are seeming to be talking all kind of ways and calling themselves to be protesting so much about now today, especially online? But are they all talking about even just this one specific case as well out there in places entirely? Am I correct or not? We must stay focused on him in this world today. Isaiah chapter 26 verse 3 and Philippians Chapter 4 verse 6 through 13. 1 Peter Chapter 4 verse 1 through 2. Christ Messiah, Jesus Yeshua Mashiach, had lived with his mind strongly focused on doing the will of the Most Highest, one true God, Jehovah, Savior, that he himself had put to end, meaning had turned away from sin, bad behavior. And we ourselves is to have the same mind as him, to keep our mind strongly focused on being turned away from committing any sin, bad behavior within the most highest one true God, Jehovah, Savior, and then be focused on doing just his will solely, even as how Christ Messiah, Jesus Yeshua Mashiach himself had also done long ago before we all were even thought to exist in this world today as of April 2025. We is to do within our own mind as how even he himself had done. 1 Peter Chapter 4 verse 1. And so now the question is, how is everyone busy using their own individual mind today? What is everyone focusing on? And is everyone focused on doing what they truly is supposed to be focused on doing today? Or are they all just busy staying focused on just whatever that they all want to each individually do, but at the end of the day ain't done did a thing that the Most High is one true God, Jehovah, Jehovah Savior has said for them to do? 1 Peter Chapter 4 verse 3. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 1. To walk in a state of being excessively focused on sexual desires, lasciviousness. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 2. To walk with a craving for a strong desire for something, especially if it's very strong sexual desires, lust, like is how many may notice within many music videos and some movies today. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 3. To walk in the state of excess of wine, thus resulting one to be drunk or tipsy, is not the way of the faith for anyone to do. And notice it says wine. So beers and other things today do not seem to be an okay thing for people to do. Again, as how many people today may notice within many music videos and some movies today. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 4. To walk in excessive or wild carousing. To walk in excessive or wild activity of drinking alcohol and enjoying oneself with others in a noisy, lively way, clubbing and partying, often involving intemperance, often involving lack of moderation or restraint, excessive indulgence, especially in alcohol, and moral laxity, a state of looseness or lack of strictness in morals or ethical conduct, careless, irresponsibility, revelings. We are to be responsible people, but many people nowadays seems to not want to take responsibility for the things that they do their own selves, and yet thinks now that this is an okay behavior for anyone to just do today. Am I right? Especially if they've all been so busy enjoying themselves, watching certain music videos and some certain kind of movies today. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 5. To walk, to entertain with a banquet. Banquetings is what Gentiles do, and this is something that we need to be watchful of doing today, because we need to be watchful of who we're sitting down eating a meal with. Colossians chapter 4 verse 2 and Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7. The more people unknown that there are at the table, then the more getting to know them all before you eat together. It'll be harder for you to be sure about them all. Like for instance, many celebrities today be going to all of these so-called banquets today, right? And some of them may end up being part of things while they were only there just simply trying to enjoy a meal or drink, Thus is why we must watch doing any banquetings, especially nowadays in this world today, as of April 2025. Note, a banquet is a formal large meal where a number of people consume food together. Banquets are traditionally held to enhance the prestige, to enhance the respect, admiration, praise of a host, or reinforce social bonds among joint contributors. Modern examples of these purposes include a charitable gathering, a ceremony, or a celebration. People can get all together so well to respect, admire, or praise another person today, but yet cannot seem to be able to do so for their maker, not even for just a small number few within the inside of their own house. Well, now do you see that this is how idolatry starts to step in, sneak into the room? This is why we must watch out with doing any kind of banquetings today, because idolatry is something that we must not do on for any given day, because he don't play with idolatry. We would become put into our place with him quick if we commit any idolatry within his sight, which is still something that many Gentiles are yet still very known to be doing today, some more than others. There seems to be something about food that can influence how people think, or something that it can do in the mind, or something we must know about who we're eating with. I'll just say that for now, okay? Proverbs Chapter 23, verse 7. Moving on. It is the will of the Gentiles, not the will of those that are of the true faith. 6. To walk in ways that have practices of worshiping or deep respecting or admiring, praising objects, beings, or ideals, models, examples that are not Christ Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, Mashiach, but are other things rather than solely the Most Highest one true God, Jehovah Savior, that are considered thought and taken to be evil, sinful, wrongful, godless, and offensive, disrespectful by biblical context, abominable idolatries. So now you ought to see something about idolatries that we all must watch out for carefully today to not do, because idolatry is still very serious thing for anyone to do today. Understand? Because if we mess up things with our maker, then how is any of us going to be able to become secured, sealed, to be truly saved? Ephesians. Note, maybe this may be why some could actually be Jews, I don't know, may come into the chats on YouTube, or how some people say that they get comments saying that you can't be saved today. Because if any of them all notice people doing things today about this abominable idolatries, even if it just looks that way to them, or if it looks that you are causing others to be doing abominable idolatries unto them, then this may be why they are saying what they say. If anyone is looking to be doing any abominable idolatries in any kind of way unto them today, okay? And I do know to say this much for now. The Old Testament does say a lot of details about what idolatry is, and the Jews definitely knows about the Old Testament Torah today, as well as some Muslims. I did not say all Muslims, so if they come at you, then henceforth understand about where they is coming from, especially if you're now what they call an influencer on YouTube. Okay? Because a real influencer on YouTube today, I believe they should be, if not, needing to be knowing about these things, instead of just making videos saying stuff about people any kind of way that in the end still make your own self look some kind of way unto the ones that has said something but you don't know, and is just thinking that you're doing something the whole time, but in reality you ain't be done did a thing unto them. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 4 through 5, wherein they think it strange that you won not with them to the same excess of public disturbance, with some of them possibly wanting to get violent, speaking evil of you. Who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead? Ready to judge the living and the dead. See there, see there. They will think and find a real true people of the faith to be peculiar, strange, odd, and unusual about many things today. So if people now finds me to be strange, then why should I get upset or mad about it? Because this all only just reminds to say to myself as my own affirmation, if I'm strange now, then that's what I'm supposed to be anyway. So I ain't worried about it. 1 Peter Chapter 4 verse 6 through 7. For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, preached also to them that are not of the faith, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to the most highest one true God, Jehovah, Jehovah Savior in the spirit. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore unintoxicated and watch unto prayer. Colossians chapter 4 verse 2 and 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. It can be hard trying to maintain a sound mind if you're also keeping your own self intoxicated with anything today. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. So you see now how you will have to make a choice to turn away from your own mind purpose. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 1. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 8 through 9. Now imagine someone wanting to do a charity or good deed to help someone, but they do it in a grudging kind of way. They choose for their own self to do something to help someone, but they don't really want to help in the way that they are actually trying to help someone else. Why would someone want to help anyone, but at the same time, they don't want to help someone? Then why do it if you really don't want to do it? You're making decision for your own self. So why choose to do something that you don't really want to do? You know, there are some places in the world today that will make you have to do something no matter what your choice is. China's government, for instance. But China ain't the only one that operates through communism, is they? But nevertheless, regardless of that, you done made the choice for your own self to help someone in a particular way that you had chose to help someone in that way. But in reality, you don't really want to help them that way. Then why did you make the choice for your own self to help them in the first place if you do not really want to help whosoever that kind of way? Ding dong. Looks like somebody needs to now wake up because you don't even really want to do what you had said that you want to do for your own self. It's sad that there may actually have some people in places today that now chose to do what they're doing, but they are just grudging about it the whole entire time, and possibly every single time that they got to do it too. Just sad. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 8 through 9. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12 through 14. When people come and they seem to be coming strong with perhaps talking bad about you before you or in secret, and if they make you feel bad doing this, then just continue to make sure that you're in good with the most highest one true God, Jehovah, Jehovah Savior, and you'll be all right through it all. And if you do so, then count it all joy. James chapter 1 verse 2 through 4. First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 through 19. But especially First Peter chapter 4 verse 15. When the fiery trials come upon you. 1. Don't anyone become to be as a murderer. Don't try to hurt anyone else just because you're now being hurt. Understand? Because it wouldn't be good for you or whosoever else if you or whosoever else do so. It's something about if anybody comes up against any of his people today, regardless of their tongue or hue, especially if any of them individually or already now is going through something hard. When the fiery trials come upon you. 2. Don't anyone become to be as a thief. Don't try to steal from anyone else just because you're now feeling hurt by what your fiery trial may be having you to feel right now. So you want to now steal from others of what good that they got. You want to now be a thief. Don't do this. You don't want to behave this way. When the fiery trials come upon you. 3. Don't anyone become to be as an evildoer. Don't try to do evil unto anyone else just because you're now feeling hurt by what your fiery trial may be having you to feel right now. So you want to now be evil, to do evil, or even just to be looking at others in a evil kind of way because your like is now resentful because they're not going through what you're going through. Don't do this. You don't want to behave this way either during your fiery trial. When the fiery trials come upon you. And 4. Don't anyone become to be as a busybody. Don't try to go get into anyone else's private things or others' business. Respect people's privacy. For instance, now imagine this conversation. One says, "How are you doing today?" The other says, "I'm doing all right." One then says, "Are you sure?" The other says, "Yeah, I'm sure." One then says, "Are you really sure? Because I heard some things going on the other night. You're sure you're all right?" The other then says, "I didn't know that you heard that. I'm good now, but I apologize." One then says, "Well, if I were you, I wouldn't have dealt with it like that." The other then says, "Hold up. What are you talking about? I just had told you that everything is good now. So what are you getting at?" One then says, "Oh, nothing. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, even though I want to." Ding dong. You should see now how a busybody will just keep on trying to get into something that is not their business to get into, but they tend to have their little ways to try to get you to tell them a little more about something that don't have anything to do with them. For instance, someone may simply ask you, "What are you eating for dinner tonight?" So you tell them, and then somewhere along the way of y'all just talking about some food, they then would ask you something that is only for your own personal business to know. "How much money do you got in the bank?" Now, you both were only just talking about food, about what you will be eating for dinner, and then they want to know about how much money you got in your bank? What that got to do with you fixing you something to eat in your kitchen where you done already got your food for the month and everything? So why would they be asking you now what that kind of question all of a sudden while in the midst of only telling them what you're going to eat for dinner? So don't try to be a busybody when you're going through your fiery trial and you're feeling bad about it. And so now you're trying to dig up information from others, being now a busybody. And you got to watch people that do this, because are they now trying to dig up information so that they can see if they can cause anyone else to go through a fiery trial as well, because they don't want to be going through their own fiery trial alone? Don't do this. You don't want to behave this way either during your fiery trial. First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 through 19, but especially First Peter chapter 4 verse 15. And you know what? First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 through 19, but especially First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 kind of makes me think about what I hear about these online YouTube drama channels, about what people be saying that they may be doing. And it seems that a lot of people may like to watch those kinds of channels today as well. Do they or do they not? Well, if anyone noticed First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 through 19, but especially First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 on any of these YouTube channels or any other channels on television or anywhere else today as of April 2025 going into May and henceforth, then please don't behave in the way that they do, especially for while you're going through your own fiery trial, when people are even just seeming to be coming at you or talking about you in a way that make you to even just feel bad. First Peter chapter 4 verse 15 through 19, but especially First Peter chapter 4 verse 15. Know henceforth that you don't have to behave yourself like them. There's a better way. So now will you just only focus your own mind on a better way, because the choice is rightly justly yours to must do for your own self. First Peter chapter 4 verse 1, right? Right? And remember this verse while going through your fiery trial. And remember this verse while going through your fiery trial. John chapter 16 verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have law and order. Definitely shall have you order, no chaos. Matthew chapter 10 verse 34. In the world you shall have a cause of great trouble or suffering, but be of good cheer. Joy with motivation. I have succeeded in dealing with a problem or difficulty in the world. So why not do First Peter chapter 5 verse 7 and Psalm chapter 91 verse 1? If I really want peace, if I really want peace in my life today, Matthew chapter 10 verse 34 and John chapter 10 verse 33. Verse 33. Where there's chaos, no wonder there's no peace. Where he at then? You got that. If you want him there, then there's gonna be some law and order to make any kind of possible peace to be. That's why it says might. Because when it first come, might. Okay, move on now. Move on. It now seems that Pope Francis has died. And according to source, I'm just going to now say this. The now late Pope Francis is one of the ones that has been blessing for something to be blessed today. But furthermore, the now late Pope Francis has said that condemning a person like that is a sin. To criminalize people of homosexual tendencies is an injustice. Did he really say that like that? And according to source, still Pope Francis had maintained the church's doctrine that marriage is between a man and a woman. If anybody out there has been coming at the late Pope Francis about this thing in any kind of a negative, even if just in a spiritual kind of way, then how dare you, whosoever? And source also says that Pope Francis also prioritized climate change, particularly among those in poverty and at most risk from extreme weather. I don't see anything wrong with that one either. Nobody better have been coming at him for that one there either. The now late Pope Francis was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires to Italian immigrant parents. He was the first pope from the Americas and the first born outside of Europe in over a millennia, in over 1,000 years. Though I sense what Pope Francis may have been possibly doing, but I got a problem because I believe that word criminalize has more than just one meaning today. Define criminalize, turn an activity into a criminal offense by making it illegal. Turn someone into a criminal by making their activities illegal. 1. They would only be made to be a criminal if what they want to still do becomes against the law. Now, 2. If I step on anybody's toes now, then you better let me step because you all have been having it coming for a while now. And now I see something here again. Now, look here. Whosoever that has been doing some things out there in the world today, that has been doing some things during the Pride Month, sporting in your little parades and with your little banners and everything, and some has been saying some bull crap, talking about some Satan loves us on their banners. Don't make me say something about that name again, because I got a problem with Satan, and he know it too. And you all just wants to be out there while walking around with your naked behind, with no clothes on your behind, even while in front of possible children around you all too. I've seen enough footage through more than just one source. And now I find out that the late Pope Francis is saying that people shouldn't be charged for doing any of their activities that on for whatever day or month that it is, even if it's all on for doing just for one day or month. They're doing their activities. It shouldn't be something that they should be criminalized for. Even if they're now doing things in front of possible children, even if some of these ones are the ones that may have had their own issues that they had experienced when they were just a little child as well themselves. But now these ones are now the ones that wants to do certain things in front of other children. Shouldn't they all have learned their lesson by now? But if not, then forget about me. Forget about trolls, and you can forget about anything else, because every single time that I notice that kind of thing going on at any of them parades, if I ever see it again, if I ever, I'm just going to say this for now. That better ever not happen at them parades again. Understand? Whosoever, especially if any of you see any children around you anywhere while walking public streets, try me if you want to. You all been having it coming for a while now. See, I be quiet for a reason. Don't make me release. And I could say more right now, but I'm just only going to focus on what the news is telling me today. If anyone thinks trolls can be something, then you don't want to mess with the one that does 1 Peter 5:7, the one that really knows even more now of just what doing 1 Peter 5:7 means. Okay? And I've been learning more and more things within his word that I now sense that is not just a saying when people always used to would say before the day. How they would always say, the Lord moves in very mysterious ways. That wasn't just a saying, boo, but them old folks then were really trying to tell you something whenever they would say that to anyone like that. And now I'm about to say to you, but in my own way too. My chief surely can, and he knows just how to move in very mysterious ways, ways that really shall be hard for you to comprehend at times. What the world is going on here at times, most indubitably, John chapter 1 verse 5. So try to figure him out of what all he doing, but you better pay attention. If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. Quote from source: the Pope's death comes one day after a weak and delicate but determined Francis greeted thousands in St. Peter's Square after Easter Mass in his open-air Pope mobile, and just weeks after an extended hospital stay in which he battled bilateral pneumonia and other health issues. And I had noticed some people that were talking in a chat somewhere online that were saying some very low down, no good things about causes that Pope Francis had died. That I suspect now that them whosoever's all were just cracking jokes while being just so damn, excuse me, disrespectful as they was being, just so very disrespectful, and I did not like seeing that at all, so I had to click away because the chat was just so sad for me to see. And I hate saying this today, but it seems now that there really are people today that don't even care to respect how they would talk about people, even while in a chat with others, while they're all together watching the news, sharing about that someone has now died. Just sad. We really have to watch what we share online nowadays. You really have to pay attention to your chat whenever that you go live or premiere something for YouTube and other places today as well, because there are people that seem to would be so ready to say things even in death, apparently, like what they were doing somewhere on April 21st, 2025. Now I've just finished saying some things about the word to help explain something that I see issue with because of some things that I've now been noticing in places today involving this word criminalize. And so if it would have been anybody else, then I would have been saying their name, no difference. But about how people were talking about Pope Francis in an online chat somewhere, just cracking jokes, the way they were chatting, I got a problem with it. Whether no matter, regardless if they all were only just children, teen accounts or not. Let me tell you something, whosoever's. You don't talk bad about people, especially about the way that people may look to you, because apparently the reason Pope Francis may have been looking not his best for Easter 2025 is because of what everyone should now know about his health that he had been dealing with for a while. And because it seems that they all were talking about Pope Francis' appearance on Easter 2025, is what I now got a problem with. Because how would you become to look if anything were to become to be going on with your own health? Eh? Eh? So them whosoever's better watch carefully henceforth about how they all would choose to talk about anyone's outside appearance. Okay? 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7. No matter what's the person's age of whom that they are talking about, because you just never know what people may be going through or dealing with in this world today. Learn something now for your own good from the now late Pope Francis. Understand? Now you should get the sense of this all now, that Trump and his administration, I don't think that they is trying to set up to cause people to not anymore be able to be homosexual in the USA, if that's what they're choosing for themselves to be. But when it comes to pride and of what pride has been doing here in the USA lately, if they do certain things, then indeed they may become criminalized for doing their activity, just like for other things in the USA that people have always become to have to go to jail or such for doing certain other things. And so I had just explained something to you about people being naked out there at their parades during Pride Month, didn't I? That's one thing, for example, that they may become into being charged with, okay? Especially when I had noticed that at times there were even children out there too, whether if they knew that there were also children somewhere as they were passing by in such way or not. Note to remember, darkness cannot understand light. John chapter 1 verse 5. So to try to lean, trust, and accept, or to admit to understand the light may just be very hard thing for darkness to do. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 through 6. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 8 through 9. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to rescue, save thee, said the chief. Then the chief put forth his hand and touched my mouth, and the chief said unto me, Observe, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out, and to pull down, and to destroy, and to throw down, to build, and to plant, by just the words from the mouth. The words from the mouth. So everyone better watch what they say henceforth. Breaking news. Saturday, April 19th, 2025. A trade war. They are now talking about trade war. They got so many kind of wars going on today. More news according to source. In order to talk things with Ukraine, then Europe would have to also be involved. And now does even Ukraine have debts as well as of April 19, 2025? It also seems that in the 1990s, that Ukraine had refused nuclear weapons. It also seems that Americans wants to help Ukraine with lasting peace. So does still Russia want peace with Ukraine today or not? Quote from source. Donald Trump's administration reduced its estimate of its assistance to Ukraine in the war from the previous $300 billion to $100 billion. It would make sense to reduce if Ukraine and Russia both remain being realistic to what striving to have a peace agreement with one another means, right? Now, USA and Ukraine is talking, but I'm not seeing much from Russia. Why? If anyone is wanting to now be transporting Russian gas, then shouldn't Russia be in with the talking about all of this as well? Now, if the Russian gas is located in the Russia territory of Ukraine, then still, it seems to me that people would need to talk first with Russia about wanting to move any Russian gas, even if the Russian gas is located within the Russia territory in Ukraine. Am I right or am I wrong? You know what? I'll tell you what may be a problem today is if there's anybody that has territory in another neighboring country right next to their own country and yet do not want to communicate for people to see if they can come get some gas from one of their own territory or not. Who else is better than the supposed to be legal rights as owner for them to call on than the legal rights as owner of the territory, right? Well, this better be a problem if anyone today do not want to have to communicate about even for their own stuff. Just saying is all. According to source, I am seeing what looks like Ukraine's communication. And if things go through, then things could help Ukraine. But I don't see Russia talking. Is Russia not saying anything or what? Because what good could become for Russia if Russia would let them know about Russia's own Russian gas? Am I right or am I wrong? Russia, I hope that you ain't been skipping any communications with anyone, especially with Ukraine, okay? Russia, I hope that you ain't been being like, well, I ain't got time for this, so you ain't going to talk about even your own stuff when it come up. Now, is that what any amount of good wisdom would tell you to do, Russia, or not? You better watch what you say to me, because I know what any amount of good wisdom would do. I know what any amount of good wisdom would do. More news. It now seems as of April 19, 2025, that even Iran and possibly Iran's groups may have to be more realistic, according to source, is what they are now saying about them to must all become to be. It seems that Iran may be thinking now that the sanctions that have become unfairly placed on them is now crude treatment on them. Crude treatment. Crude treatment. They're talking about some crude treatment. And Iran also has Russian-made air defenses. Russian-made air defenses. So is Russia still helping Iran? Iran seems to not want to talk about certain things. However, certain things may need to be talked about rightly, justly, and decently. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40, in order for whether if there's a possible agreement to become with Iran or not. But Iran doesn't want to talk about the certain things that seems to be the very things that the sanctions were placed on them about in the first place, but they don't want to talk about it. Well, now I can see why they are now using the words be realistic even for Iran today as well. Because it's even Iran now being fully, entirely realistic today or not. Well, all that I can say now is wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much for what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war and poverty. Whoa, oh, oh. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. 'Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. Break up all the doctors, make the old people well. 'Cause they're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hell. But they don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Break up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Sure that things will work out, they do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. No, 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 no. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. So wake up, everybody. Wake up. Peace.